Recording in progress.
Okay, you can make me a panelist too. Okay, I guess I'll now declare the Select Board in session for our joint meeting with the Finance Committee. We will not be taking public comment at this, as this is a working meeting.
No, this is a public hearing.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Public hearing.
Oh, this is a public hearing?
This is the public hearing.
Oh, okay, my bad. So many meetings, so little time.
So many meetings, yeah.
In that case, you want to open your meeting and then we'll open it up?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the public hearing for the capital improvement plan hosted by the Finance Committee, calling it in order at 6:06 p.m.
And likewise, the Select Board is in session, public hearing at 6:06 p.m.
And first we're going to do, since it is a public hearing, we'll do public comment. I am not familiar with the rules, so if you could,
okay.
if you wouldn't mind refreshing everyone's memory on that?
Well, the actually public hearing portion of this will occur later, but we always open our meetings with a public comment period.
Oh, I don't think, no.
Or
There's
we're not
no
going to do that?
Opening public comment on the agenda that I didn't see.
It's a public hearing.
Right, so, yes, so if there's public comment on the budget, right, but not what John, I think, was talking about at the beginning of our Select Board meetings. We have an open public comment period, and that's
So we're not
not
gonna
on
do
this,
that
but
this
this is
time.
open for public comment because it's a public hearing.
So then in that case, do we want to do public comment now on the budget, or do we want to wait until we've gone through some figures? What makes more sense?
I would think that as we go through the budget, if people have questions about the capital plan itself, that would make sense. I'd like to start the meeting, Mr. Chairman, at your, or either chair, with a kind of a narrative to start.
Okay.
That would be good.
Okay. So,
If we note that there are a couple of people that are seeking recognition, but we will get to you as we get further in the meeting.
Can I make a suggestion that we open the public hearing as a formality?
Well, maybe we should do that at the time we.
we'll do it now. You should do it now.
Okay.
The whole meeting's a public hearing.
I thought
Well, you did.
we opened it as a public hearing.
I thought we did too, but I'll reiterate.
I'm sorry, Mr. Yessen, you thought that we was something that, so, well, it's just for the record, we're declaring the public hearing open. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This year's capital planning and budgeting process has been extremely difficult and more fluid than in past years. Initial budget numbers based on early estimates had the town in a very precarious position. This caused a great deal of concern on affording not just the capital but general operation funding as well. As is normally the case with these things, numbers tightened up and things eased up over the course of the season, the budget season, which they normally do. We started at an $867,000 shortfall and ended up with about the same positive. And things tightened up. We started to put the process together, and then we got hit with the winter of '26. All departments lost about 3 weeks due to the two storms, and then we lost another couple of days of work. We were working as it related to the unfortunate incident that was out in the harbor a few weeks ago. It took up all staff, all public safety and admin and other people's staff time on this. This winter again took a big toll on the marina. As recently as Tuesday evening of this week, the Select Board authorized money in the capital for additional repairs to the marina. As can be anticipated, there were a number of proposed ideas out there when well, let me just read it, it's better. So as of yesterday, we're still making changes, and that's not a good way to do business. Anyone who is basing the capital on anything submitted prior to Tuesday is not looking at the right document. Actually, today, because we were making changes today. Tuesday did not have the most up-to-date information because of the alterations made Tuesday evening. Thus, we plugged the numbers in. The formulas wouldn't necessarily match up because we were just plugging numbers in, and we'd go back and fix the formulas thereafter. The process of the capital budget this year was pretty standard. We met, we looked at what was on the budget, what we could move around, if anything, because we were trying to put some things off if we could. We did make some reductions in the capital carryover line items on the bigger departments, minor reductions in an effort to try to keep the budget in balance. Nothing that we cut will have an immediate or lasting effect. Smaller departments like the library that have small capital items, they were left alone because their budget is at a minimum to get the state funding that's required. We moved some things around and deferred the boilers, for instance, at the school, because after Mr. Wolf took a look at them, who knows that stuff, we believe we don't need to be spending $1 million this year on boiler replacement. That can be deferred. I pushed it out to 28, and it may be pushed out further than that as we move forward. I do note that there was confusion with the DPW line. In the original line with the DPW, there were 2 grant programs, one for $400,000 or $500,000, and one for some more. One was Briar Lane, and one was another project similar to that. That is a grant application that we have in to get these 2 projects funded. So what it said next to it was grant. Since it was a grant, we removed it. It would be in the capital, but wouldn't be a funding mechanism. Then we learned that there's a 25% match if we're successful, so we had to go back in after we pulled it all out and put $125,000 and $175,000 in, I believe, as appropriate. So that was happening over the past couple of days as well. Much of the plan is intact as it has been the last couple of years. We left the format the same because people like it. It's not an easy format for us to work in, but people like it. We're going to continue on with it. The budget format is going to change for next year. What happens is we'll get 2 or 3 different programs going. We'll have something going in Excel and something going in Word and something going on Vadar. And we try to bring all of those together, and inevitably there's something that doesn't get carried or gets missed. And that is not, again, a good way to do business. We shouldn't be running things through 3 different systems. And we've got to stop that. The storms, in getting the estimates from the storm damage for engineering, especially down at the pier, we just got the final engineer estimate about 8 days ago. So we could then start, we knew what the pilings were going to cost roughly. But we didn't have the engineer's report. They didn't start working on it until we got them under contract. We looked at 3 or 4 different engineers to be able to do this. It takes time. Relative to the narratives, which you should have, email was sent on February 2nd with about 47 pages of narrative. Not all the narratives were in. On March 10th, I sent an email to all departments requiring them to get them to the Finance Committee and myself. We've taken everything we've got and we've forwarded it. We have what we have at this point. So yes, this isn't the way that we would normally like to do a capital budget. The capital budget is fine, it is sustainable, it is, funded. But the process did not work as well this year as it has probably worked in the past for a number of different reasons. One of the other issues that I have, and this is not a complaint to the current staff incumbents. They are qualified, they are good at what they do. But it is impossible for us to work with a sporadic 2-day-a-week, and it works. She's very good. This is not a criticism of the accountant, because she does a really good job. But the town needs somebody here more often, and in her next contract, we are working on a way to get her here more frequently. I just need people. I need people here more, that's all. So I know that there are hiccups. I know there's some frustration. I know some things didn't tie back exactly the way they should have in the spreadsheets, but in some of the instances, we just plugged numbers in to get them right, and we're going to go back and Susan would go back and fix the formulas once the plan was approved. So we have a good plan, and it is fundable. And from that, I will leave it to both chairs to move the meeting forward.
Your preference to do public comment now, or to?
We have a couple of people waiting and no one else, so maybe we should.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I have John Schuster has a comment. You'll need to unmute and identify yourself.
Hi, this is John Schuster. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I'm trying to get up to speed on the financial aspects of the Maurice's Campground project. And I've looked over the budget, but need some help understanding the various line items. I would appreciate it if you could run through all the Maurice's related budget items to explain what they are. And the short descriptions in the budget require a little explanation to make them more accessible to members of the public. I'm also wondering, where would I find the overall budget framework for the project? Is there a cost-benefit analysis? I assume there must be some long-term budget planning and projections about future revenue and expenditures, but I don't know where to find them. What is the framework for tracking expenditures as the project moves forward? What mechanisms are in place to help guide the Select Board and the Maurice's Planning Committee in their decision-making as the project moves into the request for proposal phase? I'm especially interested in the wastewater treatment system, which could vary in size anywhere from 50 to 120,000 gallons per day, according to the feasibility study completed last November. Do the Select Board and Finance Committee expect that the developer will pay for the treatment system or the town? I'm assuming that the town will be paying for it since it will serve a number of surrounding properties. Ryan Curley recently told the new Wastewater Advisory Committee that the housing development at the campground site is expected to supply about 1/2 of the effluent, and the town is considering sewering up as far as the Great Woods Field neighborhood if that is economically feasible. Even assuming there will be state grant money available, like at Lawrence Hill, to help pay for the system, there would still be a significant expenditure to the town. In addition, there will be the costs associated with operation and maintenance. The sewer commissioners are in the process of finalizing the new sewer system rules and regulations and determining the rate and fee schedule. I would appreciate it if someone can speak to the financial planning associated with all of this. Thank you very much.
Anybody care to address that?
Let me try. There's an awful lot to unpack. The wastewater issue will not be determined until the final plan on what is the vision for the final construction. At that point, we'll know the numbers, the number of units, the number of bedrooms, how we have to classify that by 110 gallons a day. And we will determine the size of the facility at that point in time. We're not at a point where we know how the financing for the wastewater system will occur. It could occur in a couple of different ways. The town could assume all of it, which I don't think will probably be the case. It could be a similar 50% grant, 50% town obligation, similar to what we have on Lawrence Hill Road. Or it could be a fully developer cost-borne system. I think the first and the third are probably less likely than the second. Relative to modeling, again, we're not going to be ready to do that till we have a better sense of what's going on. Relative to a cost-benefit analysis, it again will depend on how many people are going in there, what we expect, if there's going to be an increased requirement for public safety or public works related work, if these are going to be public ways or private ways when they're built. It will have a determination on what the DPW reaction is or action is on that. The Select Board and the Maurice's Planning Committee separately will have, and probably together, will have expertise as necessary to help them understand the implication of what is going to be built or what is proposed to be built, what the impact will be, and we will do a cost analysis of what the net will be of this, either positive, negative, or neutral. That's the best I can tell you right now. We're not far enough along down the way for a lot of the finals that you're asking for, Mr. Schuster.
Okay, is that Lily Merle has her hand up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I was looking for the meeting for last week and I wasn't able to attend, so I wanted to watch the recording. I don't think it was recorded, but I just wanted to confirm with the board that there was no meeting recorded from the last time you guys met. I know you had discussed the DPW budget, town admin, there was a few other things on there, water. So I'm just making sure that I'm not missing information here, or if it was recorded and I just can't find it.
My understanding is that the recording went down and it was not, and that it did not end up being fully recorded. I don't have the rationale as to why, but my understanding there was a glitch and it was not recorded.
Okay. Yeah, it's just disappointing because obviously these are really important conversations, so making sure that they are recorded next time.
Well, we do, but if there's a problem with the electronics, we can't fix that immediately.
Yeah, Tom, maybe we could put a process in place so that if that does happen, you can send out meeting minutes to everyone. Or the other case, just like at the select board meeting, sharing that it wasn't recorded so people know ahead of time, because it's really frustrating when you go online to try to find it. And I thought it was like me, and I feel bad sending emails to the video people asking constantly for videos. So if you could just let everyone know next time, that would be super helpful.
We'll try to remember to do that, Lily. Thank you.
Okay, why don't we, there are two more hands up now, but why don't we proceed and then go to them? What do you think?
So if we only have two more, let's.
Oh, okay.
Why don't we finish it?
All right, then Mr. Johnson?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, Barry Johnson from Ira Freeman Lane. I just a question about the feasibility of the capital budget in future years. Just looking at the figures, it seems to imply that over the next 4 years, the town will probably have to borrow something like $100 million if we total both the marina and the general funds. Now, my question is that feasible? And the second question is, what would be the implications of the debt service of that? I imagine it's probably even going to be at least $5 million a year. So what is the implication of that for our property taxes? And what should we be doing now in the current budget? And I heard the administrator say that it's funded, but I'm just wondering, is it really funded if we have such a potential capital expenditure over future years, and shouldn't we be already starting to build that into the budgeting process rather than having it hit us, say, in next year or the year after? Thank you very much.
Through the chairs. The town has started in a small way to start putting money away in a capital stabilization fund. There's approximately $500,000 in there right now, and on a $100 million debt load, that's not going to go very far. But understand, as we take some debt on, debt comes off over time as well. And as we borrow, let's say if we were to borrow $100 million, you're right, it's about $5 million plus interest and fees over a 20-year period. The town needs to look at the capital as well as some of the administrative, town-wide administrative, and that's departmental priorities. We have to reestablish a better set of priorities to bring some things in line. One of the problems that we run into in the capital lines, and I don't want to drone on for too long tonight, but is there's been a lot of disinvestment or neglect of investment over the last several years, especially at the marina, and with some of our other facilities. We kind of say, well, we'll take a look at it next year. We can't afford to do it this year. And then 15 years goes by, and instead of looking at a $5,000 or a $10,000 fix, you're looking at a $100,000 fix. And that's kind of what we're running into with the marina. And we will find that to be the case in some of our other facilities as we start to tackle those. I don't have a really good answer on that other than we need to reprioritize. There will be a budget committee that I'm going to put together for next year that will probably be working with the high-level huddle group that's only met once, sadly, to try to get some things under control. I have said since I started here, we have a very big budget for a very little town.
Okay, there was a hand up for Chatham Conservation Commission, but that went down. And I'm not seeing any hands up now.
So,
Lauren Arcamano keeps coming and going. So whoever had their hand up.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yep. Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed.
Okay, should we jump into the, and Mr. Greeno, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the document that we want to be looking at is a document called FY_27_capital_422026_final PDF, which can be found attached to the agenda for tonight's meeting. And it has a total for all funds, including the general fund and the two enterprise funds, of $4,022,950. Is that
That's correct.
okay? And Regis Philbin, that is your final answer? It's,
Sure.
yeah, and if you are, there is another version of the budget, capital budget, that's posted on a link from the homepage. That appears to be accurate for for all the expenditures for fiscal year '27, but the sources appears to be inconsistent. So we will be focusing on this, on the PDF that's attached to the agenda. Okay? So once again, if you go to the town calendar, click on today's meeting, there is a link to this file. Once again, it's FY_27_capital 4226 final. And once again, the grand total for the general fund and the two enterprise funds is $4,022,950. Okay, and Mr. Guarino, would you like to do this by, this is organized by department. Would you like to just sort of take it from the top and go, or how would you like to?
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, the people that came out in this November weather, I'd like to take them first, if we could.
Absolutely. That sounds perfectly fine.
So if we could start with the shellfish warden and move to the police department? Hi.
Happy to be present the entire time. I just didn't realize the meeting was in person.
We were
Pardon
doing
my
rock,
late
paper,
arrival.
scissors to see who went first. Did you care who went first?
I thought you'd go first because you were smaller.
I don't have a lot, so it'll be easy, hopefully. So since Rich Bienvenu from Eastham came a few years ago and helped us plan for the future, we started doing, putting money aside for our capital plan improvement projects so that we would have it when it came due. So we have two things in this budget that are not for purchases this year, but are for funding our lines so that we have them when we need them. One is for equipment and one is for trucks. So we have $32,000 for trucks, and we have a 2023 truck that I think is coming due next year, fiscal year '28. So hopefully, because we've been putting this money aside, it won't be an issue. It's in the shellfish, it comes from the shellfish fund, and it'll be put into a line, and we'll just spend directly from that. The other one is equipment, so like engines for our boats, and eventually replacement of those bigger pieces of equipment, like our spreader on our barge. Those, we put $6,000 away each year. And so we have that $6,000 request, and my understanding is that it comes from free cash.
The schedule I'm looking at also indicates that that comes from the revolving fund?
From the shellfish
From
fund?
the shellfish revolving fund?
Well, there's two funds. So there's
Oh, that's-
the
yeah.
shellfish fund. Yeah, if there's income there to support that, sure. If there's, I have to look at the breakdown. But 75% of all permits sold and all grant fees collected goes into a fund for propagation, and I can only use it to that. So I couldn't use it for equipment, but the other 25% that we collect goes into a shellfish, a different type of shellfish revolving fund. And usually we just take the truck from it, but I'll do, if it has the money to support another 6,000, we'll do that. I'll work with Sue and just find out. I don't remember what the line is at this point. I don't know how much is in that. I don't know how much is in the shellfish fund right now. I know how much is in the other fund for propagation, but I didn't ask about this one.
And this is going to be a recurring question, but since you're up first, you get to choose it. Those two amounts have remained fixed since fiscal year '25. Has anyone gone back and looked, given the cost of today's equipment and stuff, it's obviously gone up over the past several years. Are you still comfortable with those numbers, given that hasn't changed for a couple of years?
For now, I am. I think next year when it comes time to buy the truck, that will be one of the indications, but we have a number of years put aside already for that, so, but I can go and look again and see if, I have not done that, no, but I can certainly look into it, given all the things that have changed in the past year.
Great.
Have a you go for you.
I don't know if I want that.
And one other question is, there is a skiff, and this is going out several years, but
Yep.
there is a request for a skiff. I see it as actually both in fiscal '28 and fiscal '29. Was that intentional, or did we just duplicate that accidentally?
Let me just, I pulled that up on my phone. Hold on, I didn't notice that.
This, I think, was pushed out a year from '27 to '28, from the prior
Wellfleet
capital
skiff.
improvement program.
I don't have it on mine for 28. I have it on what I have. Bear with me. Workboat skiff. I have it for 2029.
Okay,
Only.
so you don't, we should remove that request for '28 that we're seeing here.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Yep. thanks.
Any other
Any
questions for the constable?
Yes, since you're going first. How, were you present when these numbers, this 32,000 and the 6,000 were derived?
Yes.
And do we have any work papers for how that number was derived?
I might be able to help you there. Hold
Yeah,
on.
it's actually, there's a package in the 2025 capital improvement plan that actually details the inventory, the estimated lives, and the estimated cost. That is something that we should keep.
It needs to carry forward every
We need to
year.
carry forward, which we have not done this year, but there is a basis for those numbers. But as I said, we need to update it to make sure that our inventory hasn't changed and the costs and the estimated lives are in line, continue to be in line.
Right. And my fear is that the system that we have in place now, while I appreciate the idea that we're trying to sort of level fund our capital expenditures over a long period of time, it can allow us to create some creep in what's purchased because we're no longer scrutinizing individual vehicles or individual pieces of DPW equipment and so forth. So I think we have to be really careful about what gets purchased and when.
Through the chair, if I could. So what we did is our trucks are on 5-year life cycles. So they are replaced every 5 years because they're used in a really degrading saltwater environment, and we're also responsible for emergencies out on the flats. Bear with me, where is it? It was 3 vehicles, that's 6 replacements. I think it is within, or every 5 years, it worked out to, we should be putting aside $300,000 in a 10-year span. So that's how we got to the 30,000 K annually. It says 10-year life cycle cost, 10 divided by 5 equals 2, times 3 vehicles equals 6 replacements, times 50 grand for a truck equals $300,000 over 10 years. So it's $30,000 annually. And then the other was for an ATV, in case we decide to purchase an ATV at some point. We used to have one for the department, and then at the end of its lifespan, we didn't end up getting it because we don't really have the budget for it. But we could plan it, by this way, we're planning ahead, so that's $2,000 a year in case we want to do that.
Was that the 6,000?
No, that's the 2 on top of the 32 for vehicle replacements.
Oh, I see, okay.
And you have a similar calculation for the 6,000 for the engines and the
Yeah.
equipment.
So I think it would be super helpful if we could, it seems like these numbers haven't changed. So if we can just carry that forward and incorporate it into the capital budget somehow, the townspeople, I think, would really appreciate that.
I think also going forward, it would be very helpful if we could see what the status of the accumulated funds were, so we could see how much did we put aside, how much have we spent, what is the remaining
Okay,
balance.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Any other questions?
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Hey, Tom, is Mike? Oh, he's online.
Mike's online.
Kevin,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
online.
Good evening.
Hi, Chief.
So I have several items on the capital that we worked out in the past with Rich from Eastham, and we maintain that as well for our capital budget this year. Starting with the three categories we have is the fleet replacement. I have them all written down here. The capital equipment replacement and the dispatch equipment. So I'll start off with the fleet replacement. The fleet replacement contains 10 vehicles. Now, mind you, it sounds like a lot, but it's not 10 cars. 2 of them are ATVs, which is considered a vehicle. And the other 8, out of those 8, 2 of them have been maintained that were traded in, or were going to be traded in, where we were going to get $2,500 for. But we decided to keep those because of the road project that's going on. We've been utilizing those for that, so we don't beat up our newer cars. Excuse me, I got a little tickle in my throat here. Including the patrol vehicles, the utility trucks, the admin vehicles, the detail vehicles, the ATVs. What we do with that, Rich worked with us, was taking all that, adding it up, and dividing it over a 10-year span as well of the cost with the rollover plan. Last year, it did go up a little bit from 142 to 152. Yeah.
Yours was the only department that actually factored in inflation last year.
I did, in fact, yes, I did put in inflation because it's gone up. So I've added that in, getting the estimates from the vehicles and so on and so forth. And continue to roll that over for future. The second one would be equipment replacement. The equipment replacement, the replacement assets, useful life of greater than 1 year are not provided for within the annual operating budget. So these have also been placed on a capital, which are basically the portable radios, our body armor, our mobile data computers that are in the cruisers, firearm replacements, bowler wraps, AEDs, and then the latest would be we're adding as repeaters because we have a major communication issue with our radios with all the dead spots in town. Same plan, add up everything over the 10-year, divide it up with the inflation. That would be the 43.5. I don't have the number in front of me.
Well, it was 43.5 last year. It is in there for, and subsequent years, but for this year, it's 38.5. And so it's a 5,000 deduct, and it looked like your fleet stayed the same, but your facilities repairs were also reduced by 10,000 this year.
Okay, the facility repairs are actually, excuse me, run under DPW. So that's actually, I know it lists under police because I believe it's for the police, but Jay Norton runs that line item.
Okay, fair enough.
And the decrease from the 43.5 to the 38, one of the bigger ones that was replaced recently were the firearms. So I'm anticipating an actual little bit less over the next 10 years, with it going back up.
Okay.
And then the last would be the dispatch, which is very minor. That's mostly for equipment and replacing the chairs and stuff. Those chairs and dispatch are very expensive. One chair can run about $2,500. Now, mind you, the chair, you gotta remember, someone sits in it 24 hours a day. So it gets some wear and tear. Any questions?
And then you've got the
CAD software.
CAD software for the
The
dispatch.
CAD software has been something we've been talking about for years. This is needs to be replaced. I'm back and forth with other departments on the Cape because everyone needs to replace this. It could potentially be put off until next year if we need to.
You almost beat me up when I tried to put it off till next year earlier.
What is it?
Could you just describe for us what's
This is
entailed?
this is the main thing that runs all our calls for service, running license plates, running people's names, takes all the data. It's like the master terminal that holds all the information.
So it's not computer-assisted design, which is what I usually think of CAD software.
It is, I think it's almost 10 years old. We are currently looking at a couple different opportunities, potentially maybe regionalizing one. That's why possibly we could put this off, because that will take more time to work out on how that will work with other departments. If we were to regionalize something like that with, obviously not the whole Cape, but maybe Eastham and Truro, or maybe Eastham, Truro, and Provincetown. So it's a possibility. We're working with vendors now on that system, so that's why I know I beat you up on it, but possibly could be held off for a little bit.
By the time that happens, you will have run through this new system.
Tom, hopefully that's something I could raise with that meeting.
Yeah.
too.
Well, one other thing, Chief, we found out today, I'm sorry to take meeting time up, but Verizon has informed us that they are bagging all of the copper twisted lines.
I just received that email today.
So we need to get together with the fire and maybe the other towns and figure out some way around it. The reason I bring it up is we lost all connectivity during the storm. The cell towers went down for Verizon. The fiber optic was nicked. Comcast was down. We were running off of a little police band and fire band through AT&T. We were trying to run the whole damn show through that at the warming center, not for the whole town.
And during that storm, we received over
Yeah,
1,200
and
phone calls.
The copper twisted line you could still call out on, okay, but they're not going to maintain them anymore. So,
Now, there was a change from last year where you had a request for a motorcycle a couple of years out. Is that, which is no longer included in the plan? Is
Yes,
that-
the motorcycle actually it's a lease, so it's under contract services. So that's not, no longer a capital item.
Required, okay. Fair enough. Any other questions?
I think Josh had a question.
Please.
Going back to the repeaters and just the challenges with communication, when I sat on the Cable, Internet, and Cellular Service Committee, we had a conversation with Chief Hurley about potentially mounting repeaters on the poles at the beaches and possibly other poles in town. Is that a project that you would like the town to further pursue? Is that something you need?
Those repeaters did not work for the police radios.
Understood.
So I am working with, my gosh, I just lost his name. IT?
Ryan
Thank you.
Johnson.
Ryan.
Yep.
I hope he's not watching, he's going to be mad at me. Working with Ryan and also Verizon at some possible, the future of communications around town.
There had been a discussion with the Barnstable Sheriff's Department about whether they would be vehicle-mounted repeaters or stationary repeaters. And I'm not sure where that conversation went, if it went anywhere.
From Chief Hurley?
Correct. But specifically for your police radios, not for not for Wi-Fi.
It never
but
went
for-
anywhere.
Okay.
So it's coming around again because over at least the last 12 months,
Yep.
the communication's really bad. I mean, we've had some calls where we can't even hear an officer on the side of the road with someone, and there's been a problem. So it's something that we're really looking at. That's why we added them to the budget this year. We've been working with fire department because the fire department do have repeaters in their ambulance. So we've been testing those out at some of our beaches and some of our low areas and seeing how they work to get communications back.
Through the chair, what about I'm talking ancient history here, but what about like the old Nextels?
Yeah, those are old.
I know they're a little old, but they still make, like
It's,
that.
it's not what we can be running on.
Okay.
We have to run on radios that everyone can hear.
On the same I
Along
just-
with other departments
Yeah.
and,
This is more of for an emergency situation, if
Yeah.
like we didn't have connectivity during I don't know if that would help, that's all.
yeah.
I know it's old.
Overall, day-to-day operations, we need our radios to work.
All right. Thank you, chief.
Any further questions for the chief?
I don't see if there's any
Thank you,
hands
guys.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just see if there's anybody with a hand up, but I don't see anybody.
I don't see any.
No, go home.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Do you want to go, who else did I see online there?
We have the harbor master, right?
I don't see him any longer online.
Mr. Chairman,
He has a the Marina Committee is meeting right now
Marina
as
Advisory
well, so
Committee,
he's
yes.
probably jumping from one to
on
another.
the marina,
No,
though, I do
I'm on-
have a change.
I'm online.
Okay, but I still have a change. The docks and pilings from storm that is currently at 680. Borrow free cash,
Yes?
it should be 500. The 180 got added twice.
Now, on that, if we're going to, is it, everyone, okay, going to the marina, or since Mike is on? One thing I was trying to understand is, at our last joint meeting, we asked for an accounting of how that 600,000, that was the capital exclusion exception last year was going to be spent. And in that, there was money set aside for electrical repairs, dock replacement, and pilings, which, and it's like a total like 645,000 or something. Is this 500,000 now in addition to that?
It is.
So we're talking a million
Million
one.
one over the last 2 years. And the breakdown of the 500, I'm sorry, I had it written down. We have about $180,000 in docks. We have 200 in some change in pilings, $20,000 in piling engineering. We're looking at sleeves. That was something that was brought up the other night, sleeves for the pilings to try to keep the ice off of them if it happens again. They run about $1,300 a piece. We can't replace them all with the money we have, but we can replace 35. Or excuse me, not replace, but add 35. We can get it started. The Select Board on Tuesday evening determined that we needed to keep the D&E docks open for the commercial fishery, so they could land their catch appropriately with the L pier still being down as well. And then I'm going to turn, because it gets into sizes and floats and things like that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael to finish it off. But yes, to answer your initial question, we're talking $1.1 million over 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And one thing to consider too is that 600,000 was prior to all the damage of this past storm. So we did have in there money for docks, which is just the normal cycle of replacing the docks. They cost about $4,000 a piece between materials and labor. And we're trying to, we've actually done a pretty good job. We should have all of the outboard section done this year, all of the bow tie section done this year, all of the pump out section done this year, and then we're going to start working on the A section. and work our way all the way up. And so that was put in the 600,000 prior to any of the damage. The pilings that we had in the 600,000, I just was looking to secure the outboard section, which is for those of you who are unfamiliar with the layout. The outboard section, if you're standing at the Pearl and you look straight across the marina, you have a long section that follows the parking lot. And then if you look to the left, there's a section that goes out kind of in the middle of the water there. That only was held on by 2 pilings, and it holds 67 boats. And last year during the summer, we had a significant windstorm, and I went down and checked it. I actually looked at it from the street by the Pearl, and that entire section was bowed out tremendously. And I had a lot of fear that if we had a big storm and lost those pilings, that the section would end up most likely on the beach by the cottages with 67 boats still attached to it. So the 600,000, I had put in pilings, engineering and pilings just for that one section. And so those things were kind of pre-storm. After the storm, we have to do somewhere around 35 to 40 pilings. Most of the ones leaning, not to bore you, but our Chapter 91 license, the piles have to be 50 feet, and they're driven down to, I think, a negative 23 feet. So if that's correct, and the only really way to know that is by when we start pulling them, then if they're leaning, they're broken. If they put in shorter pilings after the last dredge, if they're leaning, they're not broken. We might be able to salvage them. Chances are we're probably going to have to put in new ones for many of them. So what went from a projected 6 or 7 pilings for fixing that outboard section is now the entire marina. And by the way, that outboard section, it was held on by 2 pilings. We lost one of those over the winter, so that's a major concern for us. Same thing with the docks. The 600,000 was for labor and materials to continue our progress of trying to replace all the docks and going from one section to another. We had tremendous damage over the winter of the docks that we left in for the year-round fishermen. We initially put in, we have a bid that just came back for 15 docks, which were we counted 15 of the most damaged ones. And it, based on the Tuesday night's meeting, we're going to have the full D&E section in. And so this would pay for an additional 15 should we have another ice event. We'll be able to put in, use these docks to free up better quality docks and use the better quality docks over the winter as sacrificial docks. And then, there's all the engineering that goes with all of that. And then the other thing that was in there that we talked about was the bulkhead. The bulkhead was, again, just replacing some tie rods over the winter. Some of it could be part of the storm. There was a lot of heavy ice flow on that piling, and a lot of water went through the cracks in the parking lot. If anyone drives down there, you can see the cracks in the parking lot by the sawhorses. If you stand up and look down the rail at the bulkhead, you can see where it's bowing out once again, where we lost what was originally a handful of pilings, and now it's probably about a dozen pilings throughout the winter. We have engineering on that we're waiting to get back. It may turn out that we need to do more of the timber bulkhead than we anticipated, really for safety reasons, to maintain the parking lot, and if that fell into the water, it would be devastating for a lot of reasons. So, I just want to point out that the 600,000 was to accommodate a lot of things, especially the electric, which is a huge safety risk. But the additional damage over the winter is really where this additional capital's going to go to help with.
Through the chair. Just a quick question, Michael. At the select board meeting on Tuesday evening, when we were talking about additional docking, and you were talking, explaining to the board that the docks that you were purchasing for the D&E were for 30 footers, and the board and you and I discussed we needed to be able to put some docks in to be able to accommodate smaller boats in the 30 footers, and that was part of the additional 180 that the select board
Yeah.
approved. Right. So I just want to be sure that that stays on your radar, that we got to take care of the smaller boats too.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
You know, that I'm on record. I support the.
No, I know that.
winter
That was just
Yeah.
part of the 180. That's all.
Yeah. So that's to hopefully, well, that's not to hopefully, that would help us put in enough docks for everyone who's an overwinter fisherman.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So how do we get to 500 again?
The pilings are estimated at about $6,000 a piece, and there's 35 to 40 of them. The sleeves are about $1,300 a piece for 35. That's what I've priced out.
Just by way of explanation, the sleeves the ice would contact the sleeves, which could ride up and down instead of yanking the pilings out in the future.
Yeah. If I could, just kind of for interest, what happened this year was it was so cold that the pilings iced up closer to low tide, and that's where the ice formed. And when the tide came in, we all know ice floats. You know, if you put ice in a drink, the ice pulled pilings out of the mud. And so what John was describing is it's basically, if you think of a big corrugated, you know, one of those black pipes that you put on your you know, for your water spout on your house. It's one of those big ones, and it has floats on the bottom, so it rides up and down the piling with the tide. And so when the ice forms, the ice won't form on the piling. It will form on that sleeve, so to speak, and it will ride up and down and save the piling from getting pulled out.
Are these just for wintertime use, or are they going to be on year-round?
We would leave them year-round because part of that 1,300 is the ability to tie off to them. So if you have a boat now and there are piles that are closer into the parking lot, and then there are piles that are farther out for not all slips, but many of them, and it's tough to tie to those ones that are far out because of the tides. Most people just tie right to the docks because the docks go up and down with the tides. And if you tied to one of those farther out ones currently at high tide, the back of the boat would be in the air at low tide. So with these sleeves, they'll ride the tide as well, and they have the ability to rope off or to tie a line to those sleeves as well, and it will actually be better for the boaters and the overall marina.
Josh?
I think Mr. Bradford asked a good question. I think it would be nice to have a full accounting of the 500. I'm tracking 210 to 240 for the pilings, another 45.5 for the sleeves.
Yeah.
Where's the other half?
Yeah.
180 for pilings,
we knew that
180 for docks.
when we were having this meeting last year, and we were talking about the 600,000, we knew it was a awfully round number, and we knew it was sort of a down payment on getting started on what needed to happen. So I fully expected that we were going to be in a situation where we were looking for some more money here.
We just didn't expect
But
it
now,
to be this year.
it's been a year, and we don't have concrete estimates yet on some of the things that we were anticipating. I know they're coming in, so
Well, we
we'll
have the
them.
electrical estimates from Ty and Bond. That's out to bid now. We have the prices for the pilings, we have the prices for the sleeves, we have the pricing for the docks. on that 500. We've we provided a pretty good rundown of the 600,000.
Well, the 600,000 is mostly used up by estimates.
Yeah.
We
and
have
then
estimates
and we
because the
have
stuff is still out to
The
bid.
numbers
so-
that we have on the things that we're talking about tonight are the numbers we've gotten either from the engineers or estimates from suppliers that we have to go out to bid.
But just to make sure I understand it, if we're looking at 285,000, call it, between the pilings and the sleeves, the other 115 is all docks.
180 for the docks, based on the meeting in the sleeves. Pilings we figure at about 240. And then you take 45 for the sleeves. That's what about it comes out. It's 285. It's 485 and some change.
565,
Yeah.
so it's,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because that's 420, I'm sorry, 465, so we're rounding up to 500.
Well, I'm assuming change orders. I'm assuming some other
Okay.
things. I'm assuming anytime we've been bidding stuff out lately, it's coming in 15 to 25% more than what we had expected.
Yeah, and
So-
that overage is, we're already over on the 600. If you think about the accounting that we were
Yeah.
provided, the 600 is already at 640
Yeah, 642.
mounting. Yeah.
So, but we have the actual numbers that when we put some in there to take care of change orders or engineering changes or something that would, if they're pulling a piling up and we run into a mess and we got to do some more work down there, we've given ourselves, not a lot, but about 30, 40,000 roughly, yeah, about 5%.
And Tom-
Yeah,
Tom, just real quick, one of the things that the select board may recall that we talked about on Tuesday is trying to find systems that will keep the ice from forming, such as bubblers
Yeah,
to
that's
install
right.
on the docks. And if we do that, we need a number of bubblers. Those can go from $1,000 to $2,000 a piece. We need bracketing. We would potentially need some type of power should we lose power. So there's some things in there that we need to look into based on Tuesday's meeting.
if I could just follow with that, Mr. Chairman. You're right, Michael, and we did talk about bubblers and small generators to help keep those bubblers going, because they do provide us. But my thought is we might get a couple of them this year to see how it works down there and throw that into another capital line, because if we're going to be buying 15, 20, 30 of them, we need to capitalize it, and we need to price it out. But yes, we're going to follow through with that, but we're not going to be able to put one down by the D&E dock or two this year, but I don't think we're going to be doing a wholesale. We don't have the money to do a wholesale, and it's not contemplated in this budget.
Right.
Tim Sayer has a hand up. Tim?
Good evening, and thank you. To the Finance Committee, I would like to suggest that you take a look at the enterprise fund that the marina runs under. The enterprise fund does not cover the expenses of the marina. It's constantly having to ask for town overrides. This is evidenced by not only dredging, but the recent icing, the $600,000 last year, et cetera, et cetera. I would like to see the Finance Committee take a look at that and hopefully recommend that they're removed as an enterprise fund and become part of the overall budget of the town of Wellfleet. Thank you very much.
That will be a heck of a discussion.
Could I make a comment on that? For many, many years, that was not the case. The reason it wasn't the case is because no maintenance was ever done for decades, literally for decades. We had a history going back of administrations at the marina not wanting to spend money. So it had the appearance of being flush. What we're dealing with now is the results of that. So it would be insane to expect that the enterprise fund could float all these repairs and upgrades I'm not prepared myself to, I'm educated enough to discuss enterprise fund versus having it run by the town. However, I would envision a time when these repairs are completed and the marina is back up, not only functioning properly, but with a capital maintenance program in place where conceivably a enterprise fund could be self-sustaining. I don't know if that's possible or not.
That's a long conversation. I would suggest if any of you have access to the Mass Department of Revenue, they send out monthly newsletters. I don't know if they go to the Finance Committee or not. It came today, there's a real it's a brief on enterprise funds and how they work and what the purpose is. And it's a pretty good summary. And I'll try to remember to draw it down and send it off.
That'd be great, thank you.
And thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Sure, Tim.
Now, well, Mr. Sayer raised a question which I had as well, which is the dredging, very significant changes in this budget, or this capital improvement plan versus last year's. Looks like we're setting aside a small amount for a maintenance dredge this year, but Area 2 dredging is pushed out a year, and then it looks like there is additional dredging that's pushed out from 29 to 30, and the entire total of this is coming down by $8 million. So could
Could I just
Sure,
point out that
absolutely, John.
in the past, the dredging was never, as far as I know, paid for out of the enterprise fund. That was a separate.
If I could just
Sure.
say something. Being a harbor town, this town never dredged for years. And they never dredged. And it never came up. And I remember that there was a select board race, and it was Jerry Houck and Berta, and Mary Ellen Manning was running, and and they said, we want to be reelected because we've been on the board for 15 years and we got some things we haven't finished. And I kept saying, I wanted to ask about the dredge, because I was learning a lot about the dredge in my county position. And Paul Pilcher was on the board, so I called him later that night, and I said, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to sound critical, because we were all, And he said that was the question to ask. And that's when the pursuit of dredging started, with Paul Pilcher taking that up, then going, and he was going to Washington and the whole bit. But for years before that, 30 years, never dredged. So this is a long-standing, and then when we had the opportunity to dredge, there was so much back and forth on it, it didn't happen when somebody was there. And I can tell you right now, there's no dredging money in the federal government coming our way in the next 3 years, at least. So that's, I just wanted to put that out there. This is, John Cumberland would get up at town meeting and say the story of Wellfleet is, that's a great idea, let's wait until it costs more money. And I don't think he'll mind me saying that.
John, you wanted to finish?
Well, yeah, I was just pointing out that the dredging per se, I was on the Marina Committee for 8 years leading up to the dredging that we did. And none of that money used for studies, environmental studies, or the things we had to do to put the plan together came from the enterprise fund. That was all general fund.
So on this $500,000, the town was fortunate enough to get a small $162,000 or $167,000 grant from the Economic Seaport Council, which is kind of a big deal because they're kind of on a shoestring right now themselves, to start the engineering and the study for the maintenance dredge, not the channel dredge, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, not the federal dredge, but the state dredge.
Area 1.
Yeah, there will be a match to that, and there will be some additional work that needs to be done. It was estimated that we should put this in to cover any hiccups that they have. The match is only going to be about $43,000, but we're also starting to try to put some money aside to get that maintenance dredge done. So we have that back out a couple, that's all we have for right now.
So the 500 for the maintenance dredging for 27.
There won't be dredging done in
Right.
27. If it happens, because of the time of year that you can only do it from like November to January or October to January.
I thought the idea was that it would take place if we can get the permitting.
If we can get the permit in place, but we don't know yet,
Starting in October of 27.
so we'll see. But we needed to put that in there to cover ourselves in
The
case.
point I was making is that the dredging money does not come out of the enterprise.
Out of the enterprise fund, right?
Yeah, I'm less concerned about where it comes from, because it's all ultimately the same taxpayers.
It's all one.
But are these, I am not sure do we still have a dredging committee these days?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And they met in the last 6 or 7 weeks, they've met.
And this plan, which is reflected in this capital plan, sort of follows their thinking at this point?
We're looking at $3 million every other year or every 3 years or so as we get going on dredging, because it's going to be a 6-year or 7-year cycle, and you're going to do one, and then you're going to do another, and then 3 years and 3 years and 3 years and 3 years. My question is how do we afford this?
Okay, so the 3 million that's in 20, and I can't, unfortunately, I don't see the headings, it's 28 and 31.
Right.
Those are what I'll call the scheduled
maintenance.
maintenance dredging. There's another 4.25 million in 28. Is that sort of backfilling the?
Yeah, because the dredge is going to be hugely expensive. $7-8 million.
As I said, I just wanted to make sure that reflects our current best thinking on timing.
Yeah, and that's with dealing both with the Corps and Foth Engineering.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Any other, Marina, questions?
Yes, my question is about the 500,000 for the extraordinary repairs.
Right. We're back.
We have a working waterfront, and we have an extraordinary storm that did a tremendous amount of damage. I feel like there should be some really good grant opportunities for us to be able to recover most of this money, if not all of it.
So we have a couple of things on that. MEMA has been down. MEMA came, they asked the police chief to put together a statement of damages. All the departments that were involved or impacted put that together, gave it to the chief, it went to MEMA. What we were informed by MEMA was that they did not think that we were going to reach the threshold for snow and ice removal and all the tree removal and all of that from the county. It's a county-wide thing. It's not a town-specific thing. They think they were down here, we gave them $500,000 worth of stuff. We gave them all the stuff that we're doing. And he thinks that they will reach, he's confident they will reach the threshold for the county. It then goes to other players above this person's pay grade. Then we'll get forwarded to the congressional delegation and the governor will request a declaration. If we get the declaration, we do know that FEMA has been a bit slower. It's not that it's not coming around, it's just been a bit slower in making their determinations. I don't have a time frame as to when that would be and or whether it would be seen in a favorable light given all of the other cost things that are going around throughout the country. So every congressional person has this congressionally directed spending. They don't call it earmarks anymore. It's congressionally directed spending. So there's 535 members of Congress that are getting multiple requests from a number of different constituency groups. So we're putting it in because it's the right thing to do. I'm not going to go to the lottery and buy a ticket on that coming through. just because it's just so much.
But the marina could put us over the top of the threshold.
That's right.
Conceivably.
Well, any big project could put the county over yes, but not knowing what the other towns have submitted, I don't have that information, so. I know Sandwich got hit hard, Bourne got hit hard, Wareham got hit hard, but that's not in the county.
Sheila?
I think the question is, we did include the marina
Yeah, we
damage
did
as
include the
well. And you
marina,
were talking
yeah.
about the structural
Yeah,
town
I mean, that's
damage.
really where the most damage is.
But it was both, everything was
Yeah.
planned.
I thought that storm moved a lot of silt into the harbor. So
Oh, I
think we should-
imagine it
It
did.
could- it-
I
We put a
think-
lot of
I
stuff.
think dredging is on the list
I'll let
as
you know
well.
when I put my
The-
vote.
Yeah, it would be nice if it just washed it out.
The
right?
amount of hours and time that the DPW, fire department, and police department put in over this period of time, and it not reaching, the county not reaching the threshold is very disappointing.
There's a grant opportunity of up to $500,000. Right now, the window closes on May 4th. It's for infrastructure, it's an infrastructure grant and working waterfront stuff works. It's
From what
through the
division?
Mass Department of Agriculture.
Ag, okay, yeah, the MDR grants just came out. They
Yeah.
just came out.
Yeah.
I haven't read the guidance on them yet, but they come out.
Yeah, I just got an
Fourth.
email about it, but it's there. It's out
Okay.
there.
We gotta work on that.
Dumb question. If we're putting in all these new docks, is there any way that we could, like, sell? You go to the theater and people have their names on different seats of the theater. Could we be selling some of these where people would have their names on some of these docks? Is that a possibility?
They don't last long enough.
I know, I think that's the problem.
We're having bench
They're not-
problems,
it's
we're
not-
having
if
bench
it's a
problems
bench,
now, and
I know,
they're
that's
made
right.
out of Trex.
Yours is the last document, $10,000.
I'm sure, yeah, that's, sure, it's a possibility. I don't know what you'd glean from it. I mean, you can sponsor a dock for $6,000 or $5,000 or have your name underwater for life. I don't know. It's not a bad idea. I just don't know how if it's going to glean any a reasonable amount of money to offset the costs. It's a fun thing to do, though.
Just thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
When is the last time a detailed hard look has been taken at the fees for slips and so forth?
They
Oh,
did that
we just
Tuesday,
did that Tuesday.
they just
Tuesday
raised them
10%.
10% on Tuesday night.
Okay,
Not enough, but it will come.
It's incremental, but
Right,
it's a
good.
start. They didn't get raised last year, and they put them up 10% this year. The board, excuse me.
it needs to happen with all these costs.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's,
That's across the board, recreational and commercial.
And Mike, I just have one last question for you. I don't know if anybody else does, but I see that the medium-duty vehicle was pushed out a year.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that that's, you decided you didn't need it, but I was also just curious why last year we had a light-duty vehicle that was 130. We now have this medium is almost half the cost of that. So what is it we're talking about with this medium-duty vehicle?
So we're looking to get an actual medium-duty vehicle. I actually see, so I'm sorry, Fran, I still see the 130.
That's in 26.
130 is in 26.
Oh, okay.
And then you should see nothing, it should be 0 in that line and then 70 in
28.
28.
yeah, 70, I see.
Oh, I see the 70 and
was
28.
65 times 2,
Right.
because there was a weird thing with the police department and the money
Well-
for the vehicle that was there, and there was a whole bit, so
And
that's why.
we were talking about the crane at
That's
the
why
time.
it was 130.
Yeah.
So it really shouldn't think about it at 130, you should think about it as 65.
No,
There was 65 to buy a new truck, because that's how much a new truck costs, one.
But as you remember, we were looking to put the hoist on the truck, and there was a concern that putting the hoist on the truck didn't meet the definition of the town meeting light-duty vehicle. That was something that you and I discussed. So what we're doing.
But that was all subsequent to the budget process for last year. Last year, there was, the reason why the 130 went in was
Right, but we
totally
are-
separate. It was the weird funding thing between the police department and the marina.
The town bought the cruiser, the truck. The truck was given back
Yes.
because it was town money. There was no exchange of cash because the town bought it. The enterprise fund didn't buy it, the town bought it. So it was given back. That was the original, you're correct. Subsequently, they looked at putting another piece of equipment on the truck, and you were right, Sam, to bring up, that doesn't meet the definition of what was voted on at town meeting. So we are going back to town meeting to amend that article to make it correct.
Okay.
So they can buy the truck with the appurtenances on it.
Okay. So then we're gonna get another medium-duty truck?
We're gonna have
in
two
28?
medium-duty trucks
We're
down
gonna
there.
have two medium-duty trucks.
Come 28.
One with a boom.
One with a boom.
So how does that fit in with the vehicle, or do we have a vehicle replacement program? We do. We have a fleet replacement program.
Right.
That has $50,000 in it for this year as well. And then $100,000 for the out years.
Correct.
So is that the way this works now, when you actually want to buy a vehicle?
No, you do it in the, you do, I gotta find that 100,000, Sam.
It's,
Yeah, that's actually, you're right, and it was reduced to 50 this year from.
Yeah, it was reduced to
100 down to 50 from last year.
last year it was 0.
Yeah, we should look to see what is there.
The marina fleet replacement, I believe that's for boats, and then you have your truck replacements below.
There's a vehicle, right.
You got your harbor master light vehicle and your medium duty vehicles. Your marina money, my understanding, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. The marina facility, the line 129, the marina fleet replacement is for boats, not for, that's boat replacement, not cars.
So that's how I've understood it.
We should confirm that.
I need
with-
that schedule from a few years ago.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
I
just-
can get Rich's schedule out.
I had not focused on that
What
frankly.
is, what is the harbor workboat?
It doesn't exist, it is.
150,000 way out, but
Yeah, if that was there for the,
The safe boat?
Yeah, that would be,
The 150?
We have the engine replacement program, which is down low,
Yeah.
9,000 a year.
But we just had that bomb.
I would, there's no way we would need, there's no way Rich's schedule would have come up with $100,000 a year to replace boats with no motors.
I'll go back and get that schedule.
Be a lot of boats.
It'd be a lot of boats.
I have a question about the Elk Pier. If I may.
Yeah.
So $200,000 for FY '27 for the Elk Pier,
Let me explain.
please.
Okay, it goes back to the earmark, the congressional, if we are successful, there will be a match. And I plugged in some money to make that match, so we wouldn't be coming back to another town meeting.
But is the,
so many things that we never had.
seeing that the 7 million, it doesn't hit till FY '29, are we saying that the L Pier won't be fully operational until FY '30?
If we get the grant money and we have the match, we'll start finishing the engineering piece of that, because we can replace the L Pier, you know this, but for the public, we can replace the L Pier under its current permit with a 10% vacillation. So the idea would be to build basically the same thing, but maybe set it up a little differently. If that money comes through at 1.41 million is what I think I asked for. Just to break that down a little bit, the engineering estimate for the L Pierce, when it came in, was 1.019 million. We figured engineering cost and an owner's project manager to oversee the construction work. And so it brought it up to about 1.41. To not answer your question, if we get the grant or the earmark, we'll immediately start on the engineering piece. I don't see any construction until the next season. So you're looking at 28, maybe 29 even, depending on how long the other permits take us to get.
Now, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understand that. This 200,000 is for a matching grant?
It's for a match if we get the earmark.
Because Mike's budget request was one of the ones that he wrote, is for engineering. So it's not for, do we need to set aside money for engineering in addition to?
No, because what I've plugged into the grant application, if we don't get the earmark, yes, we'll have to plug some money in to do engineering, but I've plugged 10%, about 140,000, which is a little high for engineering services in that 1.4. I've got we got $1.1 million, call it, to build it, 140 for engineering, 86 for an OPM. That's the way we've kind of broken it down.
Yeah,
So why am I looking at
I'm totally
$7
confused.
million
It's a $7 million.
That was my question.
Tom, can I just jump in?
Yeah, I'm not seeing,
FY '29.
Mike wants to.
oh, in 29, I'm not, okay.
We're looking at a $200,000 expenditure for this year, which I'm assuming is for engineering and permitting.
It's for the grant match, if we get the grant, because there's going to be a match to that 1.4 million.
So what's 1.4 million?
Is the requested congressional earmark. We've asked Senator Markey's office, because it's that time of year, for a congressional designated amount of money through the federal government.
But what does it buy us?
It buys us the match to the grant. If we get 1.4, they're going to want a local match. We got to kick up some money too.
So 200,000 buys us the match.
That's
But does it or doesn't it buy us engineering?
that number does not buy you engineering. The engineering is included in the grant application.
Yeah, the 200,000 would be met if the grant is approved and comes in.
We would kick in
Then
200.
all of that, plus the 200,000, would include engineering. But right now, he's saying that number doesn't cover. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not doing engineering work prior to our getting noticed of whether we got the grant or not.
So basically, the engineering cost us 1.6 million. We're hoping to get 1.4 million from the government and kick in the 200,000 to bring it up.
No. The amount that we're requesting is 1.41 million, of which there is about 9 or 10% off of that is for engineering. The 200,000 is very similar to what we did with the DPW, with the 125 and the 125. If we get the grant, that's the match that's required to make the program work. So we've plugged in, assuming that this is going to come in August or September. That's what we've been told. It's before the next town meeting. We have to show that we're, if you will, shovel ready if we get the money. I can't go to them and say, I need to go raise more money. That's one of the questions that they ask.
So
It's a buffer.
So does the 1.41, does that calculation, does that get us a new LPIR?
Yes.
Okay. So the 7 million that's out there in a few years, we can scratch.
I would leave it there, because if you want to do something with the LPIR, it may be more than just replacing what's there. You may want to reconfigure the whole thing, and that's new permits, that's new, That takes time and it's expensive. So that's why that money was put there whenever.
Tom, through the chair, from my recollection, from the engineers, the 1.01 is just simply to repair the fire damage.
Right.
And then my understanding was the 7 million would go to rebuilding the entire pier as it's dilapidated at this point.
That's right. The 1.4 builds the L pier to where it was. So it cuts it back where the fire damage was and moves it to where we've taken the sections off.
So it fixes the end where the fire was.
Right.
It doesn't fix.
Not the whole L pier. It fixes the fire damage.
Okay.
And then the 7 mil, I believe, goes to building an entire new pier.
If we need to do that.
Yeah.
Which we do.
Okay. Any,
Got that figured out.
any further questions on Marina?
That poor L pier's dead, beaten.
I know, it is getting into the weeds.
It's a lowercase L now, not a big uppercase.
And we have to limit the weight on it now.
Yeah, I know. We can only put a box truck up there now, right? No, none of the 18-wheelers anymore. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, any further questions on Marina?
No.
All right, Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everybody.
Thought I saw Mr. Norton online, but I'm not seeing him now.
I'm here.
Yay.
You want to take your turn on the dock?
Sure thing. All righty. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Jay Norton, DPW Director. Sorry I'm not there in person. I had a prior engagement tonight. But I will start off by kind of categorizing these requests in really two different silos. So as some of the other department heads tonight were, hold on. You see me?
We can see your ceiling.
Okay.
Hold on, sorry, I just got home.
That's all right.
So we have some revolving requests from that other department heads tonight we're talking about. And I'll categorize those into 5 different categories. One would be DPW facilities repair and maintenance program. That's our DPW facility, and that's derived from building repairs that we have put into a capital plan, and it's averaged out year after year, so that's a revolving amount. It did go down $10,000 from the previous fiscal year. Then we have our fleet maintenance program. That is basically the same as last year, $80,000. Those are all of our rolling stock vehicles. And that was something that Rich Bienvenu helped us average out year after year. And that $80,000 doesn't necessarily mean we're using that in the next fiscal year. It's just an amount that is used to replace a vehicle whenever it's needed to be replaced. So that's kind of how that calculation was derived. DPW equipment replacement, that is basically all of our, a wood chipper or a flail mower attachment, or a pavement saw cutter or a asphalt roller. So those types of like larger equipment purchases, if we need to replace it, we have the money to do so. So that is $35,000 for FY27. Then for transfer station, we have the repair and maintenance program. Same thing as the DPW facility. We have one for the transfer station, all the ancillary buildings, scale house, all of those just for preventative maintenance measures. If we need to replace a roof or siding or whatever it may be, we have money to do so. And then the last would be the transfer station equipment replacement program for $22,000. And that's for any compactors that go down, if we have to replace one, if we have to replace a container, we have the funds to do that, and we don't necessarily have to come to town meeting for that specific item solely. So those 5 accounts are revolving every year, and you'll see that from the last fiscal year. And then we have some one-time items this year, not many. I know Tom did already talk about the Keller's Corner and Briar Lane amounts, so we did revise those to put for the grant match, given that we received the grants. We applied for grants for both of those locations, and we're expected to hear back sometime in late summer, early fall. So those amounts are in there in the event that we do get those grants and can provide the required match for those projects.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, because you might answer my question.
Yeah, I think there may be a mislabeling on the line items, because what we have here is, no, it's okay, it's Briar Lane and Keller's Corner. I'm sorry, I looked at it wrong. I thought it was under Lieutenant Island. My mistake.
Okay, well, with respect to that, if I'm understanding this correctly, the 250,000 between those two projects, that is for matching funds for a grant that we applied for.
Correct.
Of 500,000. If you look down at the sources, however, that 250,000 is being funded by a grant. So are we asking for a grant?
No, it's not being funded by a grant.
That's what this schedule indicates. So is it coming from free cash? Is it coming from borrowing?
That would be a borrow article.
Okay, so.
Well, those would be borrowing.
That was my understanding as well.
Okay, I mean, I thought it'd be great if we could find a grant to get a matching grant.
Yeah.
That would just,
Well, there are such things out there.
Sometimes you can do that.
I have a question.
Please.
I'm understanding the logic of holding cash reserves for possibility of receiving a grant in the future, but within the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't receive those grants, but we've borrowed to hold that, is there an opportunity for us to pay down that debt sooner so that we don't carry that interest over the term? Or is that why we have anticipatory notes for exactly this purpose? How are we hedging against potentially not getting those grants?
So if town meeting were to pass this borrowing issuance on May 11th, we don't have to do anything.
That's right. I understand.
What they've done is secure it. If we did a ban or a bond anticipation note, temporary borrowing, that would be one interest payment over the course of the year. The problem that you run into with that is once you go to bond, you are the bonders think you're going to be doing X, Y, Z with something, and you can't go around, if we had it for this, I couldn't put it into the regional pool study that we're doing. You can repurpose it for a similar type work. Mm-hmm. But the notion, if we're going to get notified within the first 6 months of the fiscal year, this will sit, it'll be authorized, but we won't do anything with it. The treasurer will be instructed to hold off on that until we know.
Now, Mr. Norton,
I'm sorry. One other thing that we could do, Mr. Yeston, is we could go back there next year and rescind it.
Right.
If we don't do the borrow.
To everyone, I apologize for the ignorance of my.
No, that's exactly a good
I
question.
thank you for indulging me.
Mr. Norton, in the fiscal 26 capital improvement plan, the Bryan Lane Culvert project was included as being use of Chapter 90 funds. Is that no longer possible or desired?
We did use Chapter 90 funds for the engineering design, which we're currently underway with, and also the permitting. So we're in design and permitting right now, and that's what we used Chapter 90 funds for. If in the event that we don't receive a grant, we can pursue using Chapter 90 funds. However, I'm trying to bank as much of that money as possible for the upcoming Lieutenant Island Road project, which we're going to be sending out to bid in the next month or so, and I'm estimating that to come in very, very high based on asphalt pricing. So we have a good amount of Chapter 90 funding. We have a lot of big projects coming up, so I'm trying to leverage as much opportunities as possible with that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Jay, just a question on that, if I could. If gas prices don't come down in the time period that we hope that they will, would you consider putting this off another year for the price? It's not gas, but petroleum products. Would you put this off until such time as the price comes back down, or would you just go forward?
For Lieutenant Island Road?
Yeah, for Lieutenant Island.
I would if we didn't have a grant deadline approaching.
Okay.
To utilize the funds we've received. So we have about $1.8 million from NRCS, and I don't want to lose that money. So we could pursue, a potential extension if the federal government will give us that, which, obviously is a consideration. But if they don't, then no, we can't.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I understood the NRCS grant. I didn't realize the time constraint. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Mr. Chairman?
Barbara?
May I ask a question through the chair?
Sure.
Jay, this is Barbara. I see that we are not doing any work in FY '27 on any of the beaches, on the landings, but then for FY '28, there's $1 million.
Yeah.
So there must be a logic to that, rather than spreading that out over a couple years. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that was, those are placeholders, and we were waiting, to be wrapped up with the report from the architects, Keenan and the Keenan architects that presented to you guys about a month ago.
Yep, I remember.
So those values are actually going to change, and that's based on where the town really wants to go with those recommendations. I know they came in at a very, very high cost.
Yes.
So we're absolutely going to have to spread those out.
Okay.
We can't do all those in 1 year. Those will be spread out between FY '28, '29, and '30 is my guess.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Jay.
Yep. Good question. All right, so should I continue down the list for FY '27?
Please.
Okay. So we talked about Keller's Corner and Briar Lane. The next one would be the Gestalt Center. I know we just discussed that at the operating budget meeting we had a few weeks ago. So most of the board members, both Select Board and FinCom, are aware of that issue that just came about within the last couple weeks. We have an issue there where one of the condensing units has reached its serviceable life, as well as the boiler inside that heats about 1/4 of the building and cools 1/4 of the building there. And we received a quote to replace that for upwards of $65,000. So we did meet with the HVAC company that put that quote together, and they walked us through the repairs, and we asked if there's any other possibilities or alternatives that would be, less costly, and based on the space of that meeting room, putting in splits in there wouldn't be efficient. There'd have to be a lot of splits, and they actually said it'd be more money if we pursue that option. So I'm still going to reach out to some other firms, and obviously we have to bid this work because it's so, estimated over $50,000. So we will be publicly bidding this, but I just don't see any way we can skirt that.
Yeah.
So that's where that 70,000 comes from, and then the last item is under transfer station, and that's the replacement of the transfer station scale for $115,000. This is an item we've been tracking for a few years. We just had the scale inspected a few weeks ago, and it's within tolerances. So the Department of Weights and Measures came down, and everything is in compliance. It's just reached its serviceable life. And one thing of note that came from the inspection was that the instrument in service is obsolete, so the parts are no longer available for it in the event it does fail. So it is definitely time to replace that. And that's it. So be happy to answer more questions.
Well, since I'm going to ask you a question with your wastewater stipend hat on, even though you're not currently receiving the stipend yet. The prior versions had an amount in fiscal 27 for engineering and design for the wastewater project. Is that no longer required?
It was $5 million that had been in there originally. In speaking with our consulting engineers, Anastasia Rundenko, we're not going to be needing that this year. It may, because we're not there yet. It's probably 1 year to 2 years out. I haven't plugged it into the future years because I don't know which year to plug it in yet.
So we still have enough of the 320,000 from last year to get us through fiscal 27 services?
Based on what Anastasia tells me, yes.
There aren't any other questions. I have one.
You're the chair.
For Jay, and actually for all of us. This is something that we've discussed in the past. I see that there's an item for 2028 fuel tank replacement.
Yes.
The subject has come up regarding fueling gasoline-powered vehicles at the marina, which is currently the setup. There's several drawbacks to that, one of which is, the big one is that there's no backup power at the marina when we have a weather event like we just did.
Yep.
So everybody's got to scramble and find an open gas station. The other aspect of that is, I had suggested sometime in the past we might want to consider moving that operation to the DPW yard, and then supplying the marina with ethanol-free gas, both for the equipment that the harbor master's office uses, which sometimes sits for a while, and then it's just generally better for the boats anyway. So I'm just wondering how that fuel tank replacement project might tie into moving the fueling operation to your yard.
Yeah, you're spot on, Mr. Chair. That's it's exactly what Tom and I have been discussing. Is kind of moving some of that operations to our DPW yard, and similar to what the town of Truro does. They have an above-ground tank. The police, fire, DPW utilize that. There's gas and diesel there. So that's kind of the similar thinking that we're envisioning for that.
Are you needing to replace the diesel tank up there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's old. I think it's original to the building.
Put a canopy on that thing when you build it, okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I had.
Any other DPW-related, or I guess general building maintenance, townwide questions for Mr. Norton?
I'm still confused. This isn't necessarily for Jay, because he probably doesn't know the answer. Maybe Sue would know the answer, but I'm still confused how we roll from the annual funding of, say, the transfer station equipment replacement program, $22,000 a year, and now it comes time for us to actually buy a scale, which is going to cost $115,000, and it's going to last 20 years. Shouldn't we be drawing some of that or all of that from money that has been accumulated over the last few years?
I can answer that.
Okay.
I can try to answer that. So the calculation, from my understanding, in particular for the transfer station equipment replacement program, that calculation derives from equipment that we have on site that doesn't necessarily account for large ticket items like a scale replacement. So it consists of 30 cubic yard and 40 cubic yard roll-off containers, which we have 11 of, with an average cost of $40,000 and a 20-year life. So that the replacement rate over 10 years of that would be $22,000 annually. So that's where that calculation was made when we sat down with Rich Bienvenu and made all of these revolving accounts. So they're actually tied to a specific asset that we have that is, replaced over a certain period of time. And that it also includes compactors. So that's kind of where that amount came from, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, it's one of those items that they don't view.
It's not a regular
It's used every day
replacement.
part of.
Well, I mean, a refuse
is,
trailer
but-
lasts 20 years, so does a scale.
Yeah.
So it probably should have been included,
Well,
but it
you
just
know, it's
wasn't
something- it's
done
something to think about
originally.
now,
Yeah, we might
because-
want to add it in.
It's like
yeah,
one of
I
those
mean-
appliances, you don't think you're gonna have to, you know what I mean? When you're doing your overall thing and say, oh, God. But I can see how that works, right?
I think it was the year before, it might have been the year
I think it should
before you
be
got
put
on
in.
here that we put that together, and it was basically to look at, to start with
Yeah.
vehicles, to start to make sure that we weren't.
Yeah, it's a living document.
Yeah.
Right.
I am.
Yeah, we can
I'm
certainly revisit
Sending you
it.
the 2025
He's got that
with
schedule.
the detail in it.
Piece of equipment itemized on that schedule.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, he had when Rich did that schedule of the equipment,
Yeah.
he had itemized pretty much everything that was on there. It was quite an extensive document with useful lives, replacement costs, and
Right.
costs of new vehicles. So I think he, not anticipating a scale or something arbitrary, but I think we began with vehicles and boats as a place to start, so that we weren't borrowing for police cars every year.
Yeah, and that should be updated every 5 years, as we look at that plan. So we're getting on to the 4th year now, so it would make sense that we take a look at
Because there's more stuff.
everything within that, add, subtract what we don't have, and re-estimate the costs as we go forward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you recall the days I'm sorry, Fran, if you recall the days of town meeting when we'd go up for a police car and ask it on a borrowing question, and every year it would come up to, why do we need another police car? Didn't we
yeah.
just buy a bunch of them? So it was a concentrated effort to
Harassment.
make sure that things that were replaceable and had a useful life
Police.
were itemized, so we didn't have to have that discussion every year about a police car or an ambulance. It was better when it was a surprise. Surprise!
Okay, any further questions for Mr. Norton? Can
No.
we,
I want to thank him and his department because, every time I go by, there's another pile of wood gone or a tree having been hauled away. And I've told my friends who are returning soon, you wouldn't even think anything happened here. So thank you and all your crew there, Jay.
Thanks so much, Sheila. Appreciate it.
Sorry. No, it's fine.
okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Jay.
There's sort of general things. There's two questions which I think, Mr. Greeno, could fall to you. There is no amount being appropriated for Maurice Campground-related items.
That's correct. we originally had it in. I spoke with Mr. Curley, who's been running interference with the committee for me, and they indicated they did not need it this year, and we could reduce it for this year. I don't know about the out years. That's why they're still in for the out years. But for this year, he believed that we didn't. The committee believes it's not necessary.
So we have enough sort of tucked away from prior years for expected?
That is what I have been, my understanding, that they don't need any additional money this year.
And this is, and I frankly don't know where this comes from, but I'm guessing it was probably the Conservation Committee?
The piping plovers?
No. This is, if I can find it, I'm sorry. There was a item for water filling stations.
27,000?
27,500 this year and 30,000 next year. Both were removed.
Are these the portable bottle for the public?
And was that intentional, or was that,
It's under town hall.
Oh.
Town hall section. So somewhere around here.
no, this was in the fiscal 26 plan for 27 and 28.
Under what department?
Under
It was under general admin.
Oh, general, okay.
So this was something that we thought we were going to spend money on last year, and we are not providing for it this year. So that means we've scrapped that project.
For this year, yes.
Well, but it's not, it's scrapped for this year and all future years.
For now, yes.
So the intention is we're no longer going to,
We have 5 or 6 around town now. It was one of those things that I looked at. It's a nice thing to do, and we should do it, but we're trying to cut back on some of the non-essentials, and that was one of them. At some point in time, it may come back, but for now, I kicked it out the next 2 years.
I just want to make sure these were conscious decisions.
That's correct.
And also there was, and Chief Capella was not with us, but, so I don't know if there's questions on fire capital requests, but in prior years and in earlier drafts, there was amounts set aside for the fire department overhead doors, which were removed. And is that because of the repurposing of the article last year or at Fall Town meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So they shouldn't have been included.
There's $40,000 there.
40,000 for this year and 150 for next year.
We don't need the 150,000 for next year. That should have been removed.
Okay, well, it was. It's just, as I said, I just wanted to make sure that was.
It should be 40,000. We're planning to buy, the doors are they're not perfect, but we believe we can take care of the issue by putting new motors on the doors so we don't have that stop-start problem that's been happening with a couple of them. So we're going to try that first.
Yeah, it was originally, in earlier draft was 40,000. That's been removed as well. So we believe we have enough set aside.
Yes.
Already appropriated from prior years. Please.
Jumping to IT, 30,000 for meeting connectivity.
That's for Gestalt.
That's for Gestalt, all right. So we can anticipate that.
After July.
After July, we'll be able to.
And if
hold
it's a
public
free
meetings.
cash article, if it ends up being free cash at the end, then you can start immediately.
Okay.
But if it's a raise and appropriate transfer, if it's a raise and appropriate or borrow, you've got to wait to the beginning of the fiscal year. If it's a free cash article, you can spend it immediately.
And a follow-up to that, if it's for Gestalt, have the ADA concerns been addressed?
Jay and I were working on that last week. We think there's a way to get a rail around that it's not going to create a $100,000 engineering fee. We're trying to get out of it so we don't have to do a lot of engineering just to put a railing up.
And would that be the 35,000 budgeted this year?
That will be part of it, yes.
Okay.
Through the chair, but the item is still in there. The 35,000 will remain in there for other ADA compliance purposes,
As well.
correct?
There's two amounts in the budget for ADA. There's one in the general budget to get going this year on some of the signage and maybe replacing the door in the select board office to bring the counter down to a right height, those types of things. And then there's $35,000 a year in capital to build up for some of the larger things that we need to do.
Okay.
And that should be more. It should be more. We got, the estimate we got from the ADA committee, the accessibility committee was, I think, $312,000.
Right.
So we're doing a little bit at a time to try to get that built up. There's a lot of smaller work that needs to be done. There's ramps in the school ramp, and there's a lot of big stuff, but there's a lot of little stuff we can do too. Interpretive, headphones at town meeting, things like that.
I have to say, I'm pleased to see that we have a live transcript on our Zoom meetings. That's
I didn't do it, so.
It's a step forward.
You can tell somebody thank you, because I didn't do it.
Okay, and I actually just been texted that Chief Capello is on the line. If anyone has questions for fire department capital requests.
You must be on your iPad?
Yeah, I didn't see him, so it's, oh, Joe C.
Oh, it's Joe. Okay.
Oh, fire's here.
Could someone please promote the attendee Joe C. to a panelist, please?
I've been requesting, there's no response.
Okay.
Joe, you have to say you
Let me
want to be
text him.
a panelist.
No, it's, he may have thought he got off the hook when we didn't have any questions from him earlier. And while we're waiting for him, does anyone have any questions with respect to library, rec, or beach requests? Or water enterprise, for that matter?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on the Human Services COA.
Please.
Fleet replacement, the 64. Do we know what vehicles those are? Are those the two donated vans?
I believe one was a van that they didn't have I think that's why it jumped up to 65 this year, or 64, if I'm going from memory, which
Yeah,
is always
I
a
think you're
dangerous
right,
thing.
Fran.
Yeah, that one needed replacement prior to, a van needed replacement prior to expectation.
How many vans do that, is it one van? How many vans do
One
they
that
have?
I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you.
There may be two, but I think
Oh,
there's
there
one.
it is. Okay.
Okay.
The-
All right.
The library is just the basic for the library to be able to keep them
Yeah.
grant funded through the state.
And rec looks pretty straightforward also. And that's also, I think, consistent with prior years. But
Pretty much everything
The
is.
only outlier is the skateboard ramp.
And I believe that's being split over 2 years. They're doing it in stages.
Yeah,
I still remember when it was sheet metal.
that must have been a lot of fun.
I think I have a burn on my ankle.
I was
from
gonna
it.
say.
Okay. Well, does anyone have any further questions regarding the capital budget?
I just want to make one comment. I think I've made it before. If you go to the water enterprise, that has been $200,000 the past few years. The bids are coming in higher. We plugged in another $40,000 to get us through, hopefully get us through the repair of the tank. As you remember from last year, we were trying to get a grant for the tank. There wasn't one that materialized, so that's why it's back. We put it in for this year.
Didn't we we didn't do painting last time around?
No.
No, you didn't
No.
paint it the last time around for whatever reason. But will be an inspection inside. They'll put a drone or something in there, check that out, go in, make any changes that need to be made. I don't think there will be, but then it's painting. Ryan Curley had a good idea. Could we get a cultural council or a state arts grant to maybe, put a branding on it? So we're looking at that too, but time's running out on that stuff, so.
There's your branding opportunity, right?
Right.
Naming opportunity.
Yeah, you could brand, I drive by Orleans and I
Max
see
Marina
this
sounds got a
car.
nice sound to it.
The Gillette water tank in Wellfleet.
I've been giving Tom grief about that.
Bacardi.
So, are we done, Mr. Chairman?
Unless there's any further questions?
I just want to reiterate to the board some of the comments that I made earlier. This isn't the normal way of doing stuff, okay? It's just not. And we ran into some things that put us off key. As I said, we lost almost 3.5 weeks, plus or minus. And things had to be moved around late. So for the confusion, Finance and we don't apologize, but we do understand the tension that it can bring when stuff comes in this late. We understand that. There wasn't a whole lot we could do about it this year.
Through the chair or chairs, what's the next step on the budget?
Well,
I think we voted.
I have. I was wondering, you've mentioned a couple of times tonight that, that this was a really rough budget cycle, particularly I think on the capital budget, and you don't want to be in this position next year. Maybe we could schedule something with the Finance Committee and yourself and really talk about how to get this on a more focused track.
Yeah, what I think we need to do, and I'm hoping that the high-level huddle group, by whatever iteration it is, can do the following. Over the next 12 months, we've talked about not doing an override this year, and we've been able to hold that off. But looking at a more substantial override in '28 to carry us a number of years. It is, and we will have to sit down, and we're going to have to really do a deep dive into every department, and that's going to be needs, staffing, equipment, future facilities, the whole thing, and look at what we need. Work with, and that includes the school department, because the school certainly has needs up there, and go try to close the duck bill that I talk about. We've got our price. Costs are going like this, our 2.5 is going like this, so we get this gap every year and we close it up with an override. But we're overriding, in my opinion, and this is up to the select board and the policymakers, we are asking people to be overridden every single year, it seems. And I believe we would be better not piecemealing. There are going to be things that come up that we have to go, but get a plan in place to get us through the next 6 or 7 fiscal years, barring any catastrophic event, and live with it, and not come back every single year for $100,000 for this, or $75,000 for that, or, the capital's different. Things that happen at the marina like this winter, that's different. But for normal, everyday municipal operations, we need to figure out what our true staffing levels are, because we hear, I need help, I'm overstaffed. There's a way to do this, and then figure out the number, agree on the number, and then go forward to the townspeople and explain to them why we're doing what we're doing. Now, the select board may choose not to do any of this. It's their prerogative. But we're going to try to bring something forward. So this high-level huddle group would become I don't want to call it the override committee, but it would be the deep dive committee. And it would.
Justify every.
It would be the deep dive committee. It would, the way I see it, it would either turn into a capital outlay committee at the end or a standing budget committee. So there's parts of everybody, finance, select board, not everybody, one, please. DPW director, the accountant, the finance director, the treasurer, we all sit down, where are we? Because I don't think I think you did kind of a deep dive when things fell apart a few years ago, but that was to get us stable. Now we've got to start looking about how can we thrive and not be hitting the taxpayer every single year for more. That's my vision.
I think that was the intent of the progression once we got out of that, is to make sure that we never went back there again, and to make sure that we had some planning in place so that when we needed $1 million or $7 million for the marina, that we actually had the ability to pay for it without having everything be an override. And again, that baby step came back to the fleet replacement plans. We shouldn't be spending 20 minutes every year on a police car. That should just be an anticipated cost.
It's a budget item.
Yep, absolutely. So
that's what I'm envisioning, and there can be 100 different iterations of that by the time we get through with how the dialogue goes and whatnot. But that's what I think we need to do. I think there was some good planning done 4 or 5 years ago when you were in the soup. I think that planning has gone, I don't want to say sideways, it's been let to go fallow the last 3 years, and we need to reconstitute it, that's all. We got to plan better.
Now, I will play devil's advocate on that. I think it is highly unreasonable to expect a municipal government to stay within 2.5% growth in a environment where inflation is running well above that, particularly when it comes to insurance and benefits. And so it's, that's the Prop 2.5 is a very artificial limitation placed on municipal governments.
And it was done to strangle them.
Barbara?
Thank you.
And you never got to answer your question or ask your question.
I don't remember what the last one was, but I was going to add to the chair's comments that the Boston Globe is running a series of articles about municipalities of all sizes who are having to ask for overrides just to cover things like insurance increases and the other things that you mentioned. So
it's all over Massachusetts.
Yeah, we got lucky this year in a number of areas. The insurances as were proposed came down considerably from what the estimate was from the insurance companies, both liability and health insurance. The tech school is a little less this year. I think it was 77,000.
Significantly lower.
77,000?
Yeah.
And right now, the regional school looks like it's down around 370-ish. So all of those kinds of things, when we had that $800,000 problem at the beginning, those have tightened things up and brought us back to all pretty even. So we're in a little bit better shape than some of the other towns. Next year could be very different. We could end up having 6 more children at either the tech school or the regional school, and that's the way it works. That's why we do a rolling average.
Well, it's right, we don't do a rolling average
but we
now,
need
but
to.
where the
regionalization
committee is suggesting that.
Not your regionalization committee,
good.
the other one.
Thank you.
Can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
I will
I don't see any hands up.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Tom.
Motion
This has
to
not
close
been
the
an
public
easy
hearing on the select board?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, aye. I guess Ryan never.
Thank
did.
you all.
Get supper.
All right, so the meeting is closed at 8:19 PM. Thank you, everyone.